There is just something about the new year that makes me want to grow, build, create, and streamline my business. But before we roll up our sleeves and start making all the changes that are floating around in our head, maybe we want to slow down, take a look, and implement those changes in a way that doesn't throw us into complete and utter chaos. Welcome to the Solo Grind, your weekly caffeine boost for navigating the solo business life with clarity and confidence. Today, we're chatting about behind the scenes magic that keeps things moving. So grab your cup of coffee, settle in, and let's talk about how to make your business feel a little lighter and a lot more streamlined. Welcome back, my friends. We are week 2 in a brand new year. And as I promised last week, I have got a very special guest with us here today who is going to help us streamline for sanity and eliminate some of the chaos in our lives. This guest I will introduce in just a moment. But before I do that, I thought I would take a moment to introduce myself to those of you who are new around here. I am Teresa Schloop, a brand strategist and web designer, and I specialize in helping small solo business owners like you show up online with class, style, and with a whole lot of clarity and confidence. So if that is something that you are looking for, please reach out to me. You can find me on my brand new website, caffeinecreative.io, and book a consult there with me for a quick free 20-minute chat. I would love to connect with you. And now that introductions are over, and by the way, thank you so very much for tuning in with me here. I truly love connecting with each and every one of you through this podcast. And I think that is something that I say every single week, but I feel the gratitude each and every week. So with that, now let's introduce today's guest. I have with me Tori Chassé, who is the founder of Grow and Thrive Business Solutions, where she helps small businesses simplify their systems, implement smart workflows, and use automation so they can spend less time on admin and more time doing what they love. Her approach blends tech, know-how with a deep love of organization and a focus on practical, sustainable solutions. Tori, I am so excited to have you on my show, and I am so grateful, I should say, that you said yes finally to coming and talking to us about systems and streamlining and all the amazing things that you do for your clients.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm glad. Okay. So today we're talking about streamlining. It's the start of a new year. We're just a few weeks into the new year, and everybody is like, how can I make my business efficient? How can I have a better year ahead of me? And this is your superpower, honestly, is helping people do this. So tell us a little bit about what does it mean to streamline and what does it not mean? Because I think we get confused sometimes.
Yeah, that's 100% true. I hear about it all the time. So what I tell people when it comes to streamlining is not about doing more, and it's not about automating everything. It's about making your systems work for you. So how I see streamlining is, how are you making your systems and processes, your backend, basically work so that you have clarity, it's working with intention, and it is easy. And what I mean by that is, like, it brings ease to your business, not stress. And it doesn't have to be a rigid structure. It can be structured based off of what you need, so it can still be flexible. So that's what I see when it comes to streamlining.
I love that, because it is true. Like, we feel like we have to put in this rigid structure to streamline things, to automate things. And I've done it too. Like, I've automated workflows and things like that in my Dubsado. And then all of a sudden it created confusion and disconnect, and things didn't flow and they didn't work, and it made more work than it was necessary. And it really honestly did stress me out quite a bit. So I understand.
Yeah. And like, on top of that too, I'm all for automating things,
Mm-hmm.
but I also believe that there's a need for the human touch. So there's certain things that I think if you can automate it, great. But in certain processes, certain systems, you don't necessarily need to have everything automated. At least that's my take on it. You want things to work for you, not against you,
Mm-hmm.
is what I find boils down to. And if automating a bunch of small tasks makes it easier for you to do your work and focus on what you do best, then great. But if you're trying to automate an entire process and all it is bringing you a lot of stress and anxiety, then maybe that's not the best solution. And maybe that's not the streamlining you need for your business.
Absolutely. So when it comes to automations, just focusing on that, because I think that's what people think of a lot of times when it comes to streamlining is how do I automate? What do you recommend? Like, what do you tell people? How do you get them to begin so that it's actually supportive to their business?
That's a great question. So usually what I tell people to do is if you're thinking about automating or any of your process, first thing to do, I always recommend is start with a process map. So what I mean by that is write out what you actually do day to day. So what is it that you do at 9 a.m.? What is it that you usually do at 10? Or even if it's not like structured, like based off of time, list out the tasks that you're doing. So what do you regularly do every single day or weekly at least? And then identify what are those repetitive, like super time consuming tasks that could potentially be simplified or automated. And then start looking into, okay, do I want to automate any of those? Will it actually free up some of my time? And if so, then you can go ahead and potentially do that. And then usually from there, I'm like, okay, if you've gotten some of the daily stuff down, then again, like I said, look at the weekly, then look at monthly. And you start going out from there. Then look at like, quarterly. Is there any like small tasks that you do regularly that you can automate fully or partially to free up some of your time?
Okay. I like that. I like the idea of starting small, making small changes. And I know, like, looking in your notes when we were chatting about the content for this episode, you're talking about making small changes that create a bigger impact.
Yeah. An example actually that I use is I have software, right, that books my meetings and everything, but it doesn't have like a follow-up email as a reminder for people to, come on the call with me. So I just was like, I was manually doing it for a while and I'm like, why am I doing this? This takes up quite a bit of time. And like, I could automate this and it's something small. So I created an automation. I used, I think it's called Zapier, however you pronounce it. But anyways, I created one that basically does a template outline of this is what you need to know. Here's the reminder if you need to reschedule. And I have it sent to my inbox as a draft so that I can review it, make sure it all looks good in case I want to add a personal note or anything. And then I can just send it. But instead of me sitting, typing it out, looking back and forth between my calendar, writing it in my inbox and being like, what time was that? And making sure I had the Google link. I'm like, everything is literally there. And all I have to do is spend like less than a minute reviewing it and then sending it. So it saves a little, at least for me, quite a bit of time. And if you have tons and tons of meetings, if you have something like that in place, then great. And I mean, that's just a small case. And a lot of software programs do provide something like that for you. But again, a little example of something that would normally take me quite a bit of time over time. And that adds up. The more often you do it is now a lot simpler. And that's just one small example.
I know one of the first automations that I did that I still use is my invoicing. So I used to manually invoice. It's not like I have an invoice going out every day. My projects are much bigger. And so it's not that big and it's easy to manage with a spreadsheet if I want to. But people get busy. So I would send out the invoice manually and then they would forget to pay it. And then I'd have to go through and be like, who paid, who didn't pay? And then I was constantly having to figure all of this out and then send reminders and all of that. And so that was one of the first things I did was my invoicing system got automated so that I let people know ahead of time, hey, your bill is going to be due on this date, and then send reminders as needed to, get them through. And I think it's up to like 10 days late because I'm a little flexible with people. We all have lives.
Yep.
and it's all automated. So only if they're more than 10 days late, which is like almost never happens because I have fabulous clients who want to pay their bills. It does it for me. And
which is
I
awesome.
don't have to manage that. And it is truly, it made a huge impact and saved me so much time because it wasn't just sending out the email.
No, it's sending out the email, and then it's the follow-up, and then it's the checking, and then it's not just the checking. It's like, oh, well, they actually paid, and then it's the recording and adding that into the finances. And there's a whole bunch of things that go with it. Whereas if you automate most of the process, then most of those tasks you don't have to do anymore. And then that's time that you can spend focusing on what you do best versus the admin side of things that kind of, I say, can tend to bog you down quite a lot of the time.
Yeah, really fast. And I do still use, like, I have my own spreadsheet for bookkeeping because I like old schools. You know, I tried QuickBook once upon a time and it made me want to pull out my hair, and I decided I'm not an accountant. I'm not doing this. So I do keep things in a spreadsheet, but it's so simple because now as soon as somebody pays, I get an email and I know to go log it into my spreadsheet, and then I file it away and I move on. And if somebody doesn't pay, my system notifies me, hey, they're past 10 days due. You need to, address this. And it's all automated. So it's a huge game changer.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And the other thing that you mentioned that I tell people too, you're like, I don't use QuickBooks. I use an Excel spreadsheet. How I do and work with systems is I'm like, use what works best for you. You don't have to use QuickBooks. You don't have to use, the next fancy thing or the latest trending tool because that's been recommended to you. Like sometimes it comes down to use the software that works best for your business. And then if it's not working best for your business, start looking into like, am I just not utilizing it right? Or have I outgrown it and need something different? But I always boil down to like what you just said. You don't need the next best thing. You need the thing that works best for you. Yes. Whatever that may be.
Yes. And I honestly, that's one of the things I love about the way you approach the work that you do and working with your clients and doing that stuff is you're like, what do you use? Can we optimize that? And can we make that better? Because there was a time like sending out contracts and all of that stuff. I did have to upgrade eventually to a system that handled a lot more of that for me. And that was necessary. But I like that you meet people where they're at and take care of that for them. So tell me where in the clients that you work with, where do you see a lot of businesses getting stuck? Like what tools or systems do you see that they struggle with the most that can honestly have one of the biggest impacts for them in making their business more efficient?
The most common thing I think I would say is overcomplicating things with way too many like programs or tools. And what I mean by that is I've come across people and have worked with people where there's like, I would say 8 to 10 different things that they're using. And at least quite a few of them do the same thing or offer a lot of the same services. So for example, you might have email marketing, right? And you're using a program for that. Well, a lot of the time they have automations related to that you can do in-house, whereas people are then using a separate automation software and sending it out that way. Or I've worked with people who have like CRM software, so customer relation management software, and those are quite robust, but then have separate programs again for like email or like marketing or then automation or then keeping track of their clients and their prospects. And like, you can do all of that in the one thing. So that's one thing I see a lot of people get stuck is you get this overwhelm and you get this stress and you get this anxiety that you're getting so bogged down and things aren't working necessarily right. And I really feel like it comes down to, okay, let's look at what you have. Let's look at what you got. How do you use it? And is there a way we can utilize what you use the most and you're most comfortable with and you love the most to the best of its capabilities? Like a lot of the time it does involve reducing the number of programs that a lot of people are using, and then potentially also introducing some that might work a little better if you're growing or expanding kind of thing. But that's one. And then another one that I see a lot of is relying on manual processes, just like out of habit. So what I mean by that is you do something the same way, like over and over again, and you haven't written it down, or you just kind of do it. which is great. But then again, when you start having bigger groups or bigger teams, or you get way more tasks, sometimes it's nice to have that process written down somewhere, and then potentially part of it automated in the future so that it's not fully manual, and then it doesn't take up all that extra brain space in your power in your mind, and you can focus on more again of like what you actually need to do. But those would say are the main kind of two things that I see happen a lot.
I know I had a client a few years ago. She was using 3 different programs for scheduling, depending on which appointment was getting scheduled with their clients. And then if she had to go, like if they would email to cancel, because even though most of those build in a link where they can cancel themselves, they still email us to cancel.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, fine. But she'd have to try and remember where they scheduled or what type of meeting they had and where she had to cancel it and all of that. And it was crazy. Like we did an inventory and we were in a mastermind group together, and we did an inventory of all the tech she was paying for. She saved herself $800 a month.
Wow. That's awesome.
By eliminating that overlap, that constant, programs that do so many different things. $800 a month.
Wow.
Like, what would you do with an extra $800 a month? Granted, it's not going to make you a millionaire, but you could bring in a VA to help with some of these things. You could pay for an upgrade to this one software that's really working for you. You could put it in a bonus account and call it your profit account. I mean, there's so many things you could do with $800 a month that would really help you feel a lot better at the end of the year, I feel like. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And like, that's a great example too, is the calendar management. There's so many different programs out there that do stuff like that. And I will be honest, I don't think I've ever found a program that does it all.
No.
Coming from a systems and ops person, I tell people that a lot, is like if I get questioned, what's the recommendation? Like, what's the best software that you could recommend? What's the program or system or tool? And I'm like, I honestly don't think there is one out there right now that can do it all or everything that you exactly want. It's a lot of combination of different things, and that's fine. It just needs to work for you.
Right. And that's it. So Dubsado is the program that I use for a lot of my stuff. But as soon as I implemented Dubsado, I got rid of Acuity. I got rid of my Wave app. I got rid of so many different things because it took care of all of that in one location. And that was the goal. And I mean, that's really what we're looking for, is to create that structure that helps us thrive.
Yeah, exactly. And that's also where I'm mentioning about it doesn't need to be rigid, right? Like you switched over to Dubsado, got rid of a bunch of other stuff, but you still had other tools and programs that you're using. It doesn't have to be like super, I would say, black and white. And down the road, like you might switch something else. And it just, again, your backend systems and processes are there to support you, and they shouldn't be running you. If they're running you, then they're not working the way they need to be.
Right. And you're exhausting yourself for no reason.
Exactly.
So talk to us a little bit more about that, creating that space without the restriction. Because I mean, you've said that a couple of times, like don't be restrictive. Don't be restrictive. It needs to be supportive. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So when I say don't be restrictive, I'm kind of thinking along the lines of don't box yourself into a specific area. And where I'm going with that too is, say you're using and this can be another example. Say you're using a tool. I'm going to say, for example, say you're still using Google Sheets for keeping track of your clients. Well, maybe you've gotten to the point where you have a lot of clients coming in, and there's just like the sheet is just not working anymore, but you like it, but it's not working. So you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Well, that's become a rigid structure and something that you're used to. And although it might be working, it's not working to the best of its ability anymore. And you're kind of stuck in this kind of loop is how I see it. So then the next question would be like, okay, you really like using it. How I would come in and say, do you want to automate part of it and still use that Google Sheet if that's really what you really like? Or are you ready to upgrade and change to potentially something else that can keep track of your clients a little better? You can do either of those things, but you're stuck in a pattern of something that you are so used to doing that
Mm-hmm.
you could get better results if you do something just a little bit differently, even if you're using the same software.
Mm-hmm. And I will say this, when it comes to changing, like when I made the change and shift over to Dubsado, it was huge. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
months of setup. I had hired somebody to help me do that, and they weren't the best fit, but that's okay. But hired someone to do that, and then it was me learning the software. It was me doing all of those things. Let's talk a little bit about that because it is overwhelming. What is your best tips to help people not be so overwhelmed when they have to make that shift to something new because it's better for them?
Yeah. My one kind of top thing I would say is do your research first as to what the program actually does and
Mm.
what you want it to do.
Mhm.
And I know people hate reaching out to customer service, but I always say reach out to, or at least read some of their FAQ information,
Mhm.
or most software programs now have like setup videos you can watch and things like that.
Mhm.
Like, don't skip that step. Like, actually walk through and do it, because a lot of the time they'll go through all the little things that you might not necessarily be thinking about or even realize is an opportunity for you to use it for,
Mhm.
and can help like lessen that overwhelm and stress. And if you're running into issues, then yeah, seek potentially outside help or reach out to their customer service, because I
Mhm.
guarantee you they probably get so many different questions. And yes, sometimes it does also, I talk to people too where they're like, oh, this is driving me insane. I don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, if it's not in your wheelhouse, maybe it's time for you to find somebody else to take it on and do it for you.
Mhm.
And that's where
Mhm.
I come in.
And that's where you come in. I was just going to say that that's where you come in because I know, especially as entrepreneurs, a lot of us want to do everything.
Oh,
And
yeah.
most of the people listening to this podcast, they are solo business owners.
Mm-hmm.
They have their hand in everything and they want to do everything. And it's hard to let go of the pulse of it all. But there are times when you've got to bring somebody in.
Yeah.
Even though, the person I brought in to help me set up Deb's Auto initially didn't quite grasp my vision, there's so much they did that helped me get where I need to be so that I didn't have to start from scratch and
Yeah.
I didn't have to do a whole overhaul. She helped me create a lot of space in my business. And then I went in and fine tuned it to more of my specifications. But that's where, like you said, that's where you come in because you understand that setup. You understand
Mm-hmm.
the automations, you understand Streamline, and you take a point to understand how people work.
Yes. That's like a huge component of my business is I don't just come in and be like, you need to use XYZ programs.
Yeah.
And I don't have like affiliates with any specific software, because I honestly will take a look at someone's systems or programs and how they work and what they want to do. And then I go and research like, okay, what's the best software programs or what
Mhm.
tools would work best for this kind of setup. And
Right.
then I make those recommendations, and you can take it or leave it. It's not going to offend me. You gotta, it's not what works best for me. I might give the recommendations, but it's what works best for you and what you're willing to use or learn or try on.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's something that I tell people a lot is I try and make it work for you, and we try and work the
Mhm.
best way that you work, rather than me coming in and just changing everything on you.
Right. Because, I mean, if you came in and changed everything on me today, I would want to crawl under my desk and cry
Yeah,
probably because I
no.
didn't know
And
how to function.
yeah, and it also is sometimes it's not a matter of, okay, someone might want to come in and change like 4 or 5 different things. And I tell a lot of people to like, don't necessarily start big, but as I've said before, start small. Like, make a couple of small changes. Maybe if
Mhm.
it's just like you change one of the tools and the way that you're using it and utilizing it better, that's great.
Mhm.
Do that for a little while and then think about changing something else. You don't have to do all these big changes all at once.
That's really good advice. I mean, especially now at the start of the new year, we're all ready to make big changes so
Oh, yeah.
everything works better. But staging that out, like what would make my life better today? Like
Mm-hmm.
what is one small change that I can do that improves it and building on that from there. And in doing that, I think too, we better are able to address the human factor because when we automate, when we streamline, sometimes we cause more issues than I said that before,
Yeah.
confusion and things like that. By doing smaller steps, we can address that human factor on a much smaller scale without breaking everything. I would
Yeah.
think.
100%. And on top of that too, like systems should support the people and not replace them, is how I see it.
Ooh, say that again. Say that again.
Systems should support the people, not replace them. Especially with AI coming into things like AI, don't get me wrong, I use AI. I have it utilized it in my business, but there's a time and a place for it. And it can help you with a lot of processes and systems and idea generation and everything. But it's not a human, it's not a person. And with the development of how AI is and where it's going, what I predict is a lot of people are going to want more of that human connection. So doing that now would probably be in your best interest, because that's what people are, I feel like, already craving or will be craving more. So the more it is you, the more people are likely to interact with it.
I am definitely seeing that trend where, and again, I use AI often. I use it all the time, but I am definitely seeing where people are craving a true human connection. So, like for example, when I'm working, as we're recording this, I'm working on my new website. It's going to be launched by the time you guys hear this. I have a new website. But I'm not stressing typos so much. Because that people know that it's real when it's a typo. I am stressing the M dashes though. And I used to be an M dash girl. I mean, I love a good M dash. I really was that kind of girl, but now I'm like changing that out of it because AI loves the M dash so stinking much that I'm afraid of my older blogs that really were me. People are going to think, oh, it's all AI stuff. And it really isn't. So those are, it's a shift, but I will say this too, that's one of the things that people are wanting. And the more I mean, cause I did some testing utilizing AI for some of my marketing stuff and utilizing me. And there was definitely a disconnect when AI was in use. Cause I just wanted to test to see how it would work.
Yeah, right? For sure. Yeah. And it's fun to test around with stuff like that. I find sometimes it can give you brilliant ideas, and other times you're like, wow, that really missed the mark.
Oh my gosh. Isn't that true though? I know it's the geek side of me. I want to learn the new tech and stuff, but I know there was times I was just researching something the other day for a different episode, and I kind of typed in what I was looking for, some different ideas, brainstorming resources, whatever, and it was giving me like total garbage. I'm like, dude, Sparky, you're not even listening to me. So I call mine Sparky. I'm like, you're not even listening to me. Like, you totally did not get what I asked you for. So it's interesting to see how it works. But I will say this, in my own personal testing, the stuff that was AI generated, even though I go in and fix and tweak and un-AI it, did not get the engagement and the connection as the stuff that I created without any AI, other than maybe, can you give me some resources? I want to research this topic kind of thing. So
that's so interesting. Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
For me, who loves systems and ops, I'd be like, oh, then I want to dive into like the analytics of all that and like why that might be. But like,
that's a little much. Yeah, I'm not so much the analytics girl going that deep, but it was very fascinating experiment that I've done. So that was really cool. Good.
And when it comes to AI too, something I talk about quite a bit with my clients is totally use it, utilize it, but then figure out how to balance it and the automations you have with those personal touch points. Because again, that's what I feel like people really want and really need, is they want those personal interactions. And if you're relying heavily on AI and it's working for you, great. But I find for at least small businesses and solopreneurs, like it's not necessarily the way it's going to go right now.
No. And especially as a solo business owner, no matter how much we want to hide behind a logo and a business name, you are your brand. You are your brand, and you've got to be at the core of it. And people are trusting you. People don't trust a logo. They don't trust a business name. They don't trust some clever social media post. They're trusting you.
Yes.
And if you aren't showing up, it is going to hurt you. Absolutely.
Or if you're not showing up in the right way, because AI has changed the way in which you're representing yourself, I would say, or how you're coming across, that might not land with the clients that you currently have or the people that you want to work with too.
Absolutely. I know I have clients that are utilizing AI for their blogging right now, which again, I'm not anti AI, but I can tell when they've done nothing to put themselves into the blog and it really shows up. And like for me, just an experiment, I'd have it write me some blogs. Apparently it thinks that I swear a lot, which, you know, in my personal life, I'm not going to lie. I have a little bit of attachment to the F bomb. It's therapy in 4 letters. But in my professional life, I don't want to be showing up, sounding like a sailor.
Yeah, 100% agree and understand that.
Yeah, so I don't need that in my blogs. Like,
No.
I don't need you swearing in my blogs. I don't think that's appropriate or professional. So it is something to do. But okay, good. So it's January, the year's ahead. Do you have any like key advice to help people who are looking to create a little bit more sanity in their lives and to bring a little bit more efficiency to their business?
My first thing would be like, just like thinking of what my recommendation or advice would be. It might seem overwhelming and stressful, and you might want to do everything right now because it's the new year. You might want to tackle all those different things. But again, my recommendation, start small. Yeah. Do a little thing, maybe this week, then maybe next week do something else, or maybe you get to do 2 things, but start small. And even if you have all these different ideas, if there's lots of changes you want to make or lots of improvements you want to make, just break it down into littler, like bite-sized things. Like then maybe it won't be so overwhelming and maybe it won't be so stressful if you're just tackling a little things. And, maybe add in a couple automations here or there if that's something that you want to do too.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Okay, so if they need help breaking it down and getting a little bit more clarity, they could reach out to you. So tell us a little bit more about where they can find you and what you could do to help make their year a little bit better.
Yeah, 100%. If you're looking for help or you also want to bounce ideas off of me, I'm open to that too. You can find me at my website. It's growthrivesolutions.com. That's my business. But yeah, I help people try and calm the overwhelm and fix back ends and software so that businesses can run the way that you want them to rather than them running you.
Oh, that's so good. That is very good. And I will be sure to include a link to your website in the show notes. So anyone wanting to reach out with Tori, I highly recommend. She is so sharp. And
thank you.
You're so welcome. But she can really do a lot to help you streamline and get things working the way that they're meant to. So like you said, so that you are running your business and your business isn't running you. Mm-hmm. That would be my wish for everybody in the new year.
Oh, mine too.
Yes.
100%.
Good. So, all right, Tori, thanks so much for joining me here today. And again,
thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. You're going to be back. I'm telling you, this is a good conversation. We're going to be back. I had to twist her arm a little bit, everybody, to get her on the show, but it was a great conversation, and I'm excited for our next one. So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will see you all next week. Thanks for spending part of your day with me here on The Solo Grind. If streamlining has been on your mind, I hope this episode gives you a few ideas to make things run smoother without losing your personal touch. If you want more support or behind the scenes insights, you can always find me at caffeinecreative.io. Take care, and I will see you all next week.